Good evening, everyone. I'm from Badrka School of Management, and thank you to all the participants who have joined us. Today, we have Dr. Alka Parikh with us. She's a distinguished speaker. Dr. Parikh is highly respected academic leader with an extensive career in education and development. She currently serves as the director of the Center for Field Learning in India, where a passion for bridging theory and practice shines through. Dr. Parikh's academic journey is impressive, having earned a PhD in agriculture and development economics from Cornell University in the United States. She also holds an MA in economics from the Mumbai School of Economics and Public Policy, where she earned the gold medal for standing first. With these credentials, she has shaped the minds of countless students, consistently being rated as the top educator at prestigious institutes such as Tata Institute of Social Science and DA Institute of Information and Communication Technology. Beyond academia, Dr. Parikh has dedicated herself to social impact through her work with NGOs. She is the joint director of Uplift India Association, a Pune based NGO, and a trustee of Utthan, an Ahmedabad based organization focused on empowering marginalized communities. Before we begin, I kindly ask all the attendees to submit any questions that they have during the session in the Q&A section so that we don't miss out on your insightful queries. Over to you, Dr. Parikh, for the stage. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Ishita. So, folks, I taught macroeconomics at the Badruga School of Management. And I have taught in many places before that. And I must say that the students were really good to teach. They were very sincere, they were very attentive, and very responsive. So, it has been a pleasure teaching over there. And today also, some of these students have joined us. And Kushal, if you can just show the faces of the senior students who have joined so that the people who are trying to join BSM would know the kind of seniors that they will be having. Is it possible, Kushal?
The students are joining in 2-3 minutes, ma'am. They will be
Okay, the
there in the
students have
queue.
not yet joined. Okay, fine, fine. So, guys, as far as this particular session is concerned, it is basically to give you some kind of an idea as to how it would feel for you if you were to join Badruka. What kind of learning experience person who is teaching there. So this is basically some kind of a demonstration of what it would feel if you were to join at I teach macroeconomics, and one of the things that I taught in macroeconomics, it was one of the last parts of the thing, which was how nations developed. And in that, I taught about what I'm going to be telling you today, some stories. And so I think let's just start with those stories. And let me tell you one thing. Since this is actually unfortunate not be able to take whatever you have, even the smallest of the query, it doesn't matter. But have those questions ready for me so that at the end of the session, I will be able to take those questions and answer those. Okay. So, as Ishita said, you can drop it in the question and answer session. And even if the session goes beyond 6, the ones who still want to discuss can carry on and sit there, and the others can leave. Okay. So, let's start now. Okay, so Kushal, can you see my screen?
Yes, Dr. Parikh, it's visible.
It's visible. Okay, wonderful.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so guys, I'm going to be talking about how to achieve high economic growth because that's a question which almost all nations ask even today. I mean, and India has developed a lot as far as its GDP is concerned, but India is not there as far as the first world nation is concerned, we are not yet first world because we are below, we are very low in many indices. So, but here are the nations which have become first world nations within their journey of first 20 to 30 years itself. Japan took a little longer, but they all became first world nations. And I'm going to be telling you about them. Just a moment. Yeah. Uh, so we are starting with Japan. Japan was a very prosperous nation, even in the older era, even before the uh, 20th century. And during the Edo era, there was, from 1603 to 1853, the Emperor of Japan, getting sick of these Europeans who are coming in and trying to spread Christianity and some other way of living to his people, decided he does not want anything to do with all of these guys. And absolutely banned any ships going out from Japan to any other nation and did not allow anybody else to come into Japan. Japan was completely closed. It had closed its door very, very strongly. For 250 years, Japan remained isolated from the world. The beauty was that in spite of that, the prosperity was there in the sense that they still were fantastic artists. They managed to increase their agricultural productivity during that period, and they were well educated also. So isolation did not mean that they did not grow. They were growing, but they were not talking to anybody. They were not on talking terms. Then in 1853, uh, Perry of USA decided, basically USA wanted to have some kind of trade relations with Japan because Japan is not too far from USA if you come through the Pacific route. So they said that here is a nation which we hear is very prosperous, but is not talking to anybody. How can they do that? He didn't attack them. What Perry did was Perry took 4 ships with guns and he went to Japan, pointed the guns at Tokyo, the Edo castle, and told them that either you surrender or we are going to destroy. The Japanese did not have that kind of technology, that kind of guns, because they were isolated, as I told you. So they had to surrender. And surrendering did not mean that USA took over Japan as its colony. It just meant that they were supposed to now open their ports for business with America. And that's how isolation of Japan ended. But Japan was forced into this trade. And then once America came in, the other European nations came in, Russia came in, everybody started trading with Japan with advantage in trade as far as America and Europe was concerned, not the advantage of Japan. So it's like you buy our products and we will just take your currency or your gold. That was the deal. As I have written, the West had no clue whom they had woken up. So Meiji was the emperor who took over in 1868. I'm not going to go into the politics of how it all happened, but the emperor of Japan finally took over the control over Japan. Emperor Meiji was one of these modernists. He wore Western clothes, he ate Western style food, but he preserved his heritage of the Japanese values, the Japanese culture. And what did he do was something which changed the way the world thought of development. It changed the way. How did he do it? The first thing that he did was abolish the feudal system because Japan was just like India, divided into small, small parts, which was being governed by different people. So he just abolished all of that. He made his own army. And So all those people stopped fighting with each other, and there was even more peace as far as Japan was concerned. He opened his coffers and he started offering money to people, saying that start making the product that those Western people are making. Go and learn how they are doing it. I will give you money for that. Just see the kind of confidence that the ruler had in his people, that he said, I'll give you money, but you start building industries and build industries which are like them. But then, how do you build industries which are like them when you do not know the technology that those people are using? And already industrial revolution had happened over there. So they knew how to do these things, the Western people. So the emperor sent the Japanese students abroad with his money so that the Western technology could be done, learned. Those students were sent there. And once again, look at the faith that I'm spending so much money on them and they are going abroad. What if they just settle there and don't come back? Beauty is that they all came back also. Very few ever remained there, which is very different story from now, the way things are happening in developing nations like India. When our people go there, they do not come back. But all of those students took the money from the emperor, studied over there, learned the Western technology, came back, taught it to the industrialists. They invested the money, and boom, they all had the kind of factories and kind of production technologies which the West used. Then, as if that was not enough, the emperor also called the people from abroad, Western Europe especially, to teach them English and to teach them the way the Western education was made, which was science based. He asked them to come. Once again, look at the beauty. They were supposed to come only for 5 years. And after 5 years, they had to leave Japan, which means that you are not keeping any of them here. You learn from them, you learn everything that they are teaching. You make your teachers sit in those classes, and then you master that. You don't need them anymore. And invited experts from abroad to advise the private industry owners also. And that is how Japan quickly learned everything that the West was doing. And it could do this because the education was already there within the Japanese. This had happened during the closed Edo era only, that the Japanese were very well educated. And that helped them to catch up as far as the technology was concerned. So by the early 20th century, the Japan had already established so many factories and all that it had become an equal to Western nation. And it was the first nation in Asia to become a developed nation. And within, I think, a gap of about 30 to 40 years, it started trading with the Western nations on such equal terms that the Western nations now could not sell their products in Japan, but Japan could sell its products there because the products were much superior. This is what Japan achieved. With its own intellect, with its own talent, it defeated the people who had come to defeat him. Okay. And the factor that helped them the most was education, technical acumen, and the hard work of its people. Japan is what it is because of the character of its people. So that was the story of Japan. Now we come to Singapore. You've all heard about Singapore. You know how very developed the nation is. Okay, so first let me tell you what had happened to Singapore. So Singapore, you might not even be knowing, just like India, Singapore was also a British colony. But during the Second World War, the Japanese defeated the British and took away Singapore and Malaysia from the British. So when the Second World War ended, the Japanese and the British were both in bad shape. You know that because they were devastated. And Singapore was also in very bad shape because there was no governance. Nobody was looking after it. Widespread violence and chaos prevailed, and then looting and revenge killing were widespread. There was so much of bombing because Japan was holding it and Britain and the allied nations were attacking Japan. So they attacked Singapore also. Very little infrastructure was standing. And most of the establishments that Singapore had were completely destroyed. Water supply systems, electricity lines, telephone lines, everything more or less destroyed. And the other problem was the food inflation. Food became very, very expensive because Singapore does not have much of an agricultural land. So it always used to import food. From where to import the food when you don't even have the money? So the food prices started shooting up and there was widespread unemployment. Kushal, if one of the students of no, but sorry, the students haven't heard Singapore from me. No, 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 no. We will do that when the Korea comes in. I think Singapore I did not teach, but yeah. So sorry. Let me just continue with the story. So no, I did. Akshay, did I tell the story of Singapore? Akshay, can you come on?
Yeah, ma'am. No,
I did.
ma'am. Yeah, we have discussed a bit about the Singapore, but I think here you are going a bit deeper into the discussion on Singapore.
Okay, so we did not discuss how Singapore came up, right? Because I think we just discussed Japan and Korea,
Yes,
if
yes,
I'm not mistaken.
yes,
Yeah?
ma'am.
Okay, fine. So then we will come to you when Korea comes. Yeah. Okay, fine.
Sure, ma'am.
So, uh, so what happened was that uh, Singapore was told to join the Federation of Malaysia because Singapore was a port. And as a port, Singapore was exporting whatever Malaysia was producing. Singapore itself did not have anything, any production. So Singapore was completely dependent on Malaysia. So it wanted to join Malaysia. Due to some of the differences which happened between the political leaders of the two nations, or rather the two regions at that time, there were no nations at that time, Malaysia refused to accept Singapore. And it said that you are not going to be a part of our federation, you are not joining us. So on 9th August 1965, on Singapore TV, Lee Kuan Yew, the person who was the president of Singapore Party, with his eyes filled with tears, he explained to the Singaporeans as to why the merger is not possible and informed them that Malaysia is not ready to take us in. We are left alone. He cried when he said that. And Singapore was completely distraught. They were so sad, so disappointed, and they did not know where they would go with no Britishers and no Malaysians, just this tiny little island. Now, what will happen to us? So, as I've said, little did the Malaysians know. Imagine now, if you ask Malaysia, would you like to take Singapore? It would jump for it. So, little did the Malaysians know that one day it is they who would be distraught that they let Singapore go. So, this is Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, who is the founding father of Singapore, extremely well respected in Singapore, extremely well respected. He was the first president of Singapore, and he was the architect of the wonder called Singapore. It is a wonder. That is the only way you can explain that nation. So, what are the strategies that Singapore used? So, in British time, they had made Singapore a free port. So Lee did exactly the same thing. He made Singapore a free port. He said, I will not even charge any taxes, no customs duties. Just ships come and go, and you will be, because Singapore has this, I mean, look at your map sometime. Singapore has a very strategic location. So ships which are coming in from Europe, it will be nice if they can stop at Singapore and then proceed towards Southeast Asia and Far East. So um, Singapore was made a free port and ships started sailing in like anything because they didn't have to pay anything. Second thing was the shipping services that were required. Lee ensured that that labor is cheap. And then he told the companies which were abroad, saying that you come and establish yourself over here. I'm not going to charge you any taxes. I'm not going to ask for any profits from you. You keep all your profits. You just employ my people. That's what he said. Okay. So that is how he started building Singapore, inviting companies in, asking them to manufacture, and asking them to take his people as the labor, and cheap and dedicated good labor. That's what he ensured them. Okay. He was a leftist, so he very forced people to work. But the important thing was that everybody started getting employment. The it was a disciplined labor force because no unions were allowed. And there were strict labor laws that you cannot do strikes, you cannot unnecessarily harass your management and things like that. The government itself, after a point of time, started building industries when it understood how to do certain manufacturing things. And at the same time, as the money started flowing in through other things like trade and all, Singapore started building its infrastructure also. Okay. And in 1988, Singapore had already become the busiest port in the world, not just in Asia. And the change that occurred in just 23 years, it's a big achievement. And Lee ensured that all his laborers have good houses to live in. All of the children should be given education. The healthcare was provided not from the state coffers, but from the provident funds that the companies were giving to its workers. They could not give it to the workers, they gave it to the government, and the government gave then free medical services to everybody. So there was no straightforward welfare scheme. And still, because he ensured that everybody gets employment, there was no absolute poverty in Singapore. Isn't that a wonder story? Now, as the success story continued, there was something else which happened, and this is called the capacity of the country to learn where to shift gears. So Singapore first said, take my cheap and disciplined labor. Then it realized that now there are very few people left who are not employed. And if we want to grow, we need to do something. So then there was this wide scale program to upskill labor, and the labor productivity was increased. Now they started making very complex technological products. And Singapore, from very low skilled labor, came to a skilled labor stage. And after that, when it saw that even that is very well achieved, Singapore once again shifted the gears to the fifth gear, not even fourth gear, fifth gear. And it trained everybody in computers in such a way that today Singapore stands as a thriving and financial and business service center. It became a first world nation. So Singapore did this with Lee ensuring that his people get employment. One, two, his people are ready for employment. So he trained everybody. And three, he knew when to change gears, and he kept training his people for the things which are going to come in future. This is the capacity which is needed in a leader, this kind of vision. And Singapore provided that. Okay. So now we come to the last one, which is called the Korean miracle. Now, Korea was divided after the Second World War. And then there was a war between the two Koreas, North Korea and South Korea, from 1950 to 1953. And Korea was just completely destroyed, the South Korea part. And then happened what is called the miracle. It's a miracle because it was like, Singapore only was attacked by the Allied forces, but it was part of the Allied forces also once upon a time. But when North Korea and South Korea fought, South Korea was completely flat. And from that flat, that destroyed nation, how did Korea emerge? So when USA was on the side of South Korea, USA gave aid, and with aid, the first thing that Korea did was to once again rebuild its infrastructure, rail, electricity, ports, everything. The second thing which it did, even when it was just building itself. So, I mean, you're just coming out of the war. First thing that it did, it said all the children should be back in the school. Fortunately, the schools were standing because nobody had bombed the schools. And the schools were not built by the Koreans. The schools were built by the Japanese who had occupied Korea at that time. Japan ruled Korea for a very long time in a very bad manner. Japan did not allow the Korean students to attend the school. Fine. But the schools were standing. So the entire children population was sent to the school to get education. And the students were not given scholarships. The best teachers were employed with the government funds, not for the students to get scholarship, but the students to get the best teachers. And that is how Korea had started the education, and then land reforms were carried out. Which was basically they just made sure that agricultural land, because Korea was agricultural society at that time, agricultural land is equally divided among the Korean people. And that is how the Korean society became equal. Now, one of the senior students, can you tell me some more things about Korea? They have learned it in their class. So I hope that one of them would remember the story. Yes?
Hello, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes.
I rightly remember one great thing about Korea is like when USA was giving aids to them, it came back to them saying that we do no longer need
Yes.
aids, but we want
Yes.
loans because they felt like they were being dictated by USA rather than being
Yes.
developed by themselves by using those.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Folks, I'll tell you the story of this in slightly more details, but let's see if any other student has anything to say before I continue. Kushal, if there is no one, then I'll just continue. Yeah, it looks like there is no one right now. So let me continue with the story and continue telling you what Akshay was saying. So now let's meet the second leader. You already met Lee of Singapore. Now, let me introduce you to the person who is called Park Chung Hee. Park Chung Hee is the architect of Korea's development. So, what Park Chung he did was he was told by the Americans to follow the import substitution model. Just one moment. My phone is ringing. Just one moment. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that. Yeah. So I was saying that the Americans told them that you go for producing everything that is being that you are importing. That is called import substitution model, where you become self-reliant, you become self-sufficient. So that was the development model which even India was following in those days, because that was the most important development model. So the Americans told the Koreans that do this. Park Chung he said no. He had seen the Japanese growing. He knew that there was another model which was existing, and he knew he wanted to follow that model. When he told that to the Americans said, why would we give you money for something that we don't believe in? So he said, fine. So as Akshay said, he said, fine, you don't give us grant. We don't need your grant. The self-confidence, we don't need your grant. You give us loan. We'll pay you back for everything that you're giving us, but we decide how we grow. Okay. So so Mr. He finally had his way, and he followed the export promotion model. So what he did was he told the private industries, just like Japan had, the Emperor Meiji had done for Japan. He told his private industrialists, start producing the goods which are technologically sound goods. And I will stay as guarantor. I, as the government of Korea, will stay guarantor for the loans. If you can't repay, I will pay. That confidence that I know that they don't need my money and they will succeed. That kind of confidence he had in his people, and he stood as a guarantor to private industries. And he also made sure that if, say, for example, Samsung is making something, then he would not allow Hyundai to make the same thing, so that there is no competition between the companies. And so everybody concentrates on something and becomes the best in that. Okay. And he also made sure that education is like taught to the secondary education. Then finally, he made it knowledge economy, the same way Singapore had done, that you train your labor force as the demands are changing, as you are growing as a nation. Okay. And once again, just like Singapore, no welfare expenditure. Money was used only for giving it to the industrialists so that they can create the jobs. And then you have no unemployed and your economy will grow. And even today, Korea is spending the highest money in research and expenditure, the research and development. So this is how Korea became a very, very successful model, because it led to an equal society through its land reforms. It made sure that its workforce is very skilled. It made sure that incentives are given for people to go through innovations and inventions. That's why you always find your Samsung phone coming out with more and more features, because they are constantly working on it, or even Hyundai for that matter, LG. I mean, all of them are doing the same thing, right? So that is their culture, and that is what has been developed consciously by South Korea. So technical giants are Japan. Technical giants are Korea also, because now Korea surpassed Japan as far as technical products were concerned. So this is the story of Korea, which we have a lot to learn from. So now the last thing, that why has India not become a developed nation? So the first thing which we must understand is that from the very beginning, from 1947 till 2024, the government and bureaucracy, our entire machinery, is trying to regulate everybody. It does not support them. I mean, there they actually stood there saying that we are with you, now grow, and we are with you. That has not come as far as India is concerned. Another problem is, of course, we are a much larger nation compared to all of these. These are very tiny nations. So they did not have to deal with 143 crore people. So that is very difficult. The another problem is that our educational standards are not very high. We do not have very good teachers, and we do not give very good education. So our children from primary school lot of times can't read and write, and our graduates from colleges lot of times are found to be completely unemployable by the companies. uh, and the most important thing is, as a nation, we have not shown the vision to direct our efforts. Those people realized what they are good at, and then they just went for it. We do not know what we are good at. So we just are still groping in the dark, trying to do this, trying to do that. We have not been able to decide what we are the best at. And that's one of the major problems why we have not been able to grow. And of course, as you all know, we are poor inventors, in the sense that whenever they say that what have India has come out with and what is the best research that India has done, we have to fall back to Aryabhat, who had discovered zero and things like that. I mean, so the आज क्या करके दिखाया, तो there is nothing much to show as such, that there is this great invention which has happened all because of India. No, we do not have that yet. So we have to develop that also. And with that, I will finish my presentation. And now I will make the floor open for the people, and I'll stop sharing the slide. Yes. do the seniors of BSM want to say something? What they liked, or how was the experience when they were learning in the class? What is the general atmosphere in the class, etc., etc.? One or two things, yes.
Yeah, ma'am. Apart from what you have said about the Japan, Korea, and Singapore, I had then you talked about India. So I always had this question in my brain that when South Korea was in bankruptcy and they have
Yeah.
taken loan from IMF,
Yes.
the people
Yes.
came out and donated the kind of gold to pay off the loan. What kind of mindset they were having which Indians were not having that set them apart from India? So how was
Yes.
the mindset different from typical Indians at that time?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I'm so glad, Akshay, that you brought this up because I thought I did not have time for this story. So, folks, I had told this story in the class when we were discussing Korea, that when the Asian crisis happened, or rather the Southeast Asian crisis happened, Korea also was very badly affected. And it was in such a bad shape that the economy was almost bankrupt, because nobody was ready to give the money. Nobody was trading with Southeast Asia at that time, and they were in really bad shape. So finally, they had to go and get the loan from IMF. And this I'm talking about the late 1990s. So Korea had to go and get the loan from IMF, but the Koreans, as I told you, are the people who are very self-righteous people. They are not the kind of people who want others to tell them what to do. So somebody got this idea that we still have gold. When they say we, that means the citizens of Korea. Just like you have a gold necklace, or you have a gold bracelet, or your parents have so much of gold. So, just like that, Koreans also had gold. And so they said that let's all the citizens of Korea donated whatever gold they had, personal ornaments that they had. They donated that entire thing so that Korea could repay some of its debt and come out of this condition where IMF will tell them what to do. That, as Akshay said, is something which is such a strong national character that somehow it does not exist as far as South Asia is concerned. So, and this is something which seems to be more of a characteristic of the people of Far East Asia. So, yes, Akshay, thanks a lot for that. Yeah. Any other senior student wants to say something before we go to questions and answers?
Uh,
Yes, Ashish.
Good
Hi.
evening, ma'am. How are you?
Hi. I'm fine. Yeah.
Ma'am, first of all, I would like to tell all the participants of the webinar, when we are sitting in the classroom, it's more of an one-on-one. It's you feel like it's very personalized, like individual attention is given to all the students. And the main part is we might have different opinions, but at the end, it's very important that each and everyone is able to present their views, which is one of the
Yes.
main aspects which we could do in your class. I
Yeah.
still remember that we were discussing why India could not develop, and I still have the same doubt, ma'am. Do you think brain rot, which is brain drain, as we call it, like you, as you mentioned in the starting, that people of Japan went outside for studying and came back and helped their country develop. Do you
Yeah.
think what could be the possible alternatives that could be developed for these people so that the brain drain could be reduced to an extent, and the skill which is actually necessary for developing India could be allocated here instead of other countries?
I think, Ashish, that's a great comment and question, in the sense that if we actually develop schemes which are so attractive for them that, okay, fine, we'll give you a house, or we'll give you land if you want to establish a company. Whatever you want, you tell us, and we are putting in this red carpet for you, and you come back. For all you know, a lot of them will come back. But yeah, we are not doing that. We have not seriously taken our own talent. You're so right. You're so right. And maybe that is the reason why we are losing out our best people to those people, So, like the Sundar Pichai has to become the Google head over there. यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं बन पाया. So yes, you're very right that we must have some kind of schemes. Maybe your generation will do better than us, Ashish. Yes.
Sure, ma'am. Maybe now the government realizes this is the need of the hour and develop some schemes so that this
Yes.
actually has to be stopped.
Very true. Very true. Very nice. Yeah. Anybody else?
We have a question. It's an
Yes,
anonymous.
Ishita. Yes,
So
Ishita.
it's there in the Q&A. It's how can the government or bureaucrats help in the industrial revolution for now?
How can the government?
And bureaucrats.
Yes. Huh. Yeah, continue.
So, ma'am, that's the question. The question is how can the government or bureaucrats help in the industrial revolution for now?
Okay. See, the thing is that in India, even today, if you, I mean, taking a very bad example, very, very bad example, but whatever happened with Adani and he wanting to establish the ports and he had to give bribes of, I don't know, hundreds of crores to the politicians and bureaucrats to get his project out. On one side, US says that this is corruption and this and that, but just think of the misery of the businessmen and industrialists that if they want to establish anything, they have to give so many bribes because you have to get licenses, you have to get permission, you don't get anything for years, you are sitting and waiting. So that entire attitude, as I said, the attitude is more like I regulate, I decide as the government that you will do this and you will do that. I am not standing as a supporter. I'm standing as a powerhouse, as a regulator. So the government and the bureaucrats have to change their attitude to become partner, to welcome them, just like we talked about in Ashish's case also, that we have to do something like that. So I think that is the answer. That is how the attitudes have to change. Yeah, Bhavna, you had come on screen. Bhavna, can you come back again, please? Yeah.
Hi, ma'am. It's great to be part of this again and hearing you talk. One of the feedback or one of the thing that I would like to share here is the project that you gave us.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
uh, we chose Guatemala. So the project here for the audience is that there are certain companies which have low GDP, but on the happiness index, they are at a very high level. So our country, the country that our group chose was Guatemala, and the research that we have done and the factors that we have found which leads to happiness in an economy, all these new discoveries that we did with the help of you was really great. All of this experience was really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and I must tell the people who are attending this that these students have done such a good job that now I hope that within another 6 to 8 months, I will be able to come out with a book based on their assignments and talk about the alternative development models, something that the world has not yet talked about very seriously. So, yes, I'm very proud of these students, very proud. Yes, thanks, Bhavna. Thanks. Yeah, Ishita, do you have any other questions?
Yes, ma'am. We have another question.
Yeah.
It's many foreigners pulled out their equities. What's the main reason for this?
If many foreigners hold out their equities,
Pulled
matlab
out,
kya?
pulled out their equities. That's the
This
question.
they sold or hold? I am not getting it. SOLD or HOLD?
Pulled, Pulled. Many foreigners
Oh,
pulled out
pulled out their ठीक है.
equities.
See, the thing is that there are two things. One is the investment that comes, which is not called FDI, foreign direct investment नहीं बोलते उसको. It is something which comes in the stock market or it comes in as financial investment where they are investing in our shares or in our banks or whatever to earn greater interest rates or greater returns. they will be pulling it out whenever they see another opportunity. So there are these speculative activities will keep happening, and nobody, including all the planners or the business people of India, get scared when people pull out their investments like that, because they will bring it again when the share market starts booming. This is how share markets behave. We don't have to get scared about that. Okay. What we need to get scared about is if the FDI starts getting pulled back, in the sense that if the industries from other places come here, establish themselves or try to establish themselves, and then decide that it's not working out. It's not working out, maybe because of our labor, because of our government, or whatever. But if they feel that it is not working out, and if they pull out their investment, then that is something which is a big problem, very big problem. And then we need to ask ourselves where we are going wrong, because we need their money also if we want to create employment for our people. We have a lot of people who are still unemployed, millions of them. I mean, lakhs of people are unemployed today. Yeah, Ishita.
I think that's the questions that we have
Okay,
at the
fine,
moment.
fine.
There's
So,
another question that has just come up, ma'am. So
yeah,
it's
sure.
they just want an opinion from you. Japanese people went out of country to learn and come back to the nation to build theirs. Koreans
Yes,
donated personal gold to save their economy. We are
yes,
suffering with brain drain and corruption. Apart from that, now across all nations, wokeism and other unproductive mindset spreading and spreading an education sector has become a rat race to catch up with wokeism and byproducts of choice. How can economy stand while people go morally corrupt? Is morality and economy related?
right. I
That's
think that
a
that is more
huge
of a
question.
comment than a question, because everything that is said is so true, and I have nothing to add. I mean, you said it. You said it all. That when you are getting so morally corrupt, how can a nation which is morally so corrupt grow? And it has no right to grow. Also, if you ask me, I mean, how can we grow if we are behaving the way we are behaving? Like chores, rather than the people who are the technical leaders or people who are at the forefront of science and technology and all. So we need to become that. And if we remain what we are, then we deserve to remain a developing nation and not a developed nation. So yes, that's the thing. But I was told that there are 5 senior students who are there. So I think some other senior students also want to just share something, please. Especially, I think students, if you don't mind, yeah, Rakshita. Rakshita, just tell these people about the way the professors are chosen, in the sense that, I mean, the kind of professors that you have gotten till now in BSM. Yeah.
Hi, ma'am. Happy to meet you again, ma'am, after many
Same
years.
here, Rakshita.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah.
The kind of professors we get here is very nice. I mean, like fully experienced about, actually, they have experience more than my age also. And very experienced people is coming, and they have very diverse experience in industries, teaching, everything. So much of knowledge we get after talking to you guys. I mean, like after connecting with you, we can build more network, and it was so nice to have these much experienced lectures.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, when I visited BSM, this is what I was told, that everybody who comes to teach in BSM is an expert. They are not just the, assistant
Yeah,
professor or something. They all are experts, right? So,
yeah.
I mean,
They
and
have so much of industrial experience where they work.
correct.
Yeah, they have
Yes.
worked in different sectors also, not in manufacturing, everything. They have covered diverse sectors were also there.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
can get
Yes.
practical knowledge. They used to teach us how the real world works.
Right. Right. Yes. Great. Great. Thanks. Thanks a lot, Rakshita. And
Thank you,
is there
Rakshita. Ma'am,
anybody else?
yes, so actually we have some few other questions and there's even a
Yes.
feedback. So
Sure.
the question says, how are the stock market? How can the stock market be great for the people of India? That's the question.
Stock markets, when they are booming, um, do encourage a lot more initial investment to come up. So, when you do not get these so-called IPOs, which was the case in India when the recession had hit us, that for almost 5 to 6 years, we had hardly any IPO coming up in the share market. So, share markets booming is something which helps in the development of India, because then you have a lot of IPOs coming up, the industries are expanding, new industries are setting up, and the country then, of course, starts earning more and more because there is more investment coming. So that's how it is, Ishita. Yeah, but Ishita, I think Manisha had come online. So can we just allow her to speak before we take the next question?
Yes, sure, ma'am.
Yes, Manisha.
Hi, ma'am. It's very good to
Yes.
see you here after many
Same
days.
here. Same here.
Actually, we are
Yeah.
missing your classes. And ma'am, I just wanted to share my views, like how what was your goal to teach us? Like you just wanted us to understand the subject, and that you wanted us to apply those economic like headlines to like understand in real life, not just about the marks. We just
Yes.
wanted, yeah. I hope we all have achieved that.
Yes. So, yeah, you have achieved it in a major way. And all the questions that I asked in the exams were applications, and you guys did so beautifully. I mean, I think almost 70% of the class has A's this time. I mean, it's that good. So, you guys did extremely well. Extremely well.
And the projects also, as they have divided into 11 teams, so we have learned about the 11 different countries, which
Yes.
made us very enthusiastic towards the economics and everything.
Right. Very good, Manisha. Thanks for that. And so, folks who are looking at Badruka as one of the schools, that please know that the students are very enthusiastic about their assignments. Students are very hardworking, and when they are hardworking, they do earn very good marks also. So, in general, the atmosphere is very academic and at the same time very devoted, very dedicated kind of people. Yes, Ishita, any more questions?
So, ma'am, there's not a question, but there's just a feedback that they have. It's actually a
Yes.
good. So they just want to let you know that they really enjoyed the session and they would actually prefer these session more often. So that's the feedback that they have given.
How wonderful. How wonderful. So you can be in touch with me directly also, because I am running a research center. And if you want to do some research, you want to look at some questions, then do get in touch with me. The email address is alka.parikh@yahoo.in. It's very easy to remember. alka.parikh@yahoo.in. And my name is spelled over here, so you can't be making a mistake in the spelling. So do get in touch with me, and I assure you, I will definitely reply, because that's what I like to do. It's my passion to encourage people when they are curious to know something. Okay.
So I think we can, I would, before we end our day here, the webinar. So just before that, I would firstly, agree with the feedback that has been given. I'm actually jealous of the students who have attended your classes. So I actually thoroughly enjoyed your storytelling way of, communicating your thought. So that was, I think, intriguing for me, and I'm sure even our attendees too enjoyed it. So
Yes.
just before we leave, I'll be sharing. Kushal, can you share, or do you want me to share?
Uh, yeah, should I just check 1 minute? Mm. Should I sit? Can you share it? Can you try it from your side? Ishita, you're on mute.
Okay. So I think in order to have these more of these kind of sessions, you would have to, be a part of Badruka School of Management. And to be eligible for it, you just need a minimum, like, you need to have a 10th and 12th score. There's a UG score that we require. And the other thing that we require is the management exams. So a valid score from CAT, GMAT, ZAT, MAT, or any of the management exams. Work experience is preferred, but it's not a mandatory thing. So you can apply. So the process is visible on the screen. The first thing that you need to do is you need to go on our website. There's an application form. You need to submit that. There'll be an interview. And the third stage will be you'll be receiving an offer letter. So that's the stage that we have. So, in order to invest in your career and be a part of BSM Hyderabad, this is our BSM 2-year flagship PhDM fee. So, you need to just, for the first year, there's a 50,000 pay deposit as well as a 20,000 a refundable deposit. In your year one tuition fee, there's a 7,50,000, and year two is 1,75,000. And for year two, you can just see what's visible. So along with that, we have financial support as well as scholarship as well. As it's visible on the screen, we have two kind of scholarship. One is merit based and the other one is merit and need based. So for merit based, we calculate a holistic performance of a student and we take in students based on that. In merit and need based, a student need to have of annual family income below 15 lakh. One is that, and the other is on the merit base. And with respect to financial aid, we have partnered with a lot of banks. We have HDFC, SBI, and ICICI. So in order to apply, you can just scan the QR code, just fill in it's a short form, and the admission team can reach out to you. In case you have any queries, we even have a mail ID as well as the phone contact details. Please reach out to us.
So is that it? We end the session now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll see you around in BSM now. Okay, bye.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving a wonderful session.
Yes, bye.